And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entered the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California, Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up in the head, intercepted at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, 20, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
On 3rd and 3, they protect Brady. Scans the field and lets it fly. It's Evans. It's a touchdown.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself from BucsNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. Mr. Evan Wanish. Words are hard, man. Happy Sunday. It's been a pretty long week. We are here today to recap week 2 of Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp for you. A lot of big storylines coming out of this week. And all those position battles that we've talked about the last couple of weeks really starting to come into fruition. Things are getting exciting. Evan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. It's the Bucs play a football game in 6 days. We're recording this on Sunday, so by the time some people listen to this, it may even be less time. But their first preseason game is next Saturday, August 13th. So finally, some actual football to talk about soon.
Yeah, I mean, we have been dying for some actual football, obviously, because training camp gets everybody going again, gets you excited about what's to come, but we got a lot of storylines so far from camp that really feel like they're only going to work themselves out through these preseason games, and I wanted to open the show. Actually, let's open the show with the biggest bit of news from this week, and that is the return of Chris Godwin at the wide receiver position. So the last time we talked to you guys, which was pretty much a week ago, Godwin was not placed on the PUP list to start camp, which was obviously a very optimistic move as far as his recovery. He returned to practice this week, not without a big old honking brace on his right knee, but he is pretty much full speed. I mean, I'm not really sure what he looks like during contact periods. I have to imagine they're being a little more cautious with things like that. But when he came out and started practicing at first, he wasn't at the same speed as everybody. They kind of had him off to the side, doing sprints, running in a straight line. But these past couple of days, he has gotten active in wide receiver drills. He's been catching passes from Tom Brady. And, I mean, from here, already more of an encouraging start than we talked about at the starting of camp. But, I mean, he is back out there and he's doing his thing, man. That is huge for Chris Godwin.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, he wasn't really doing any like 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 like live drills. Just now he's just running routes, being able to catch passes. He's in pads and everything. So, well, and again, we have to stress that this does not mean that he will play week one. However, I mean, he's definitely not going to play in the preseason. That's not going to happen. I don't think they're going to risk that at all. So I wouldn't expect him to see him this preseason. But as far as week one goes, that doesn't guarantee that he's going to play. However, it also is a pretty positive sign that he's out there after 1 week basically of sitting out. So I do think they're still going to be cautious, and I think that in terms of Godwin, I think they're going to be asking him how he feels. If he doesn't feel comfortable, they'll shut him down again. Now's the time to sort of experiment with that, see how far you can push it, because you don't want something that could linger into the season. So I think they're gonna play it cautious, and I think the depth in this wide receiver room now actually doesn't force their hand. They don't need Chris Godwin. Obviously, you'd want him. You definitely want him. But they don't need Chris Godwin to play week one in Dallas. Like, it's not a dire need for them because of the depth they have. So I don't think they're going to rush him. However, it is a very positive sign that he is actually there and practicing now for the first time.
Oh yeah, and aside from Chris Godwin, I also think maybe the Ryan Jensen injury has something to do with this, but the Bucs have also been I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. They've been no stranger to letting guys take days off of camp. I mean, Tom Brady had a couple of personal days he took this week. Other vet days off, they've been pretty liberal with as far as dealing them out. Guys like, I know Mike Evans had that hamstring injury, ended up being incredibly minor. It's almost a yearly occurrence at this point, but he hasn't practiced very much this week. Rashad Perryman had a vet maintenance day today. Julio Jones has had a couple under his belt as well. But
yeah, Perryman actually, that's a legit injury. Perryman left practice on Monday and hasn't practiced since. So that's a legit injury. We don't know the exact issue, but there's a legit injury there.
Well, definitely something to keep an eye on here. But as we talk about the wide receiver room, I guess we might as well mention it too. With guys like Chris Godwin, I mean, not 100% full speed, but Julio Jones not out there. Rashad Perryman and Mike Evans, of course, missing the time that he has. We talk about those younger guys still vying for spots on the team. They've been getting some pretty good work in this week with Tom Brady.
They have, and you guys like Scotty Miller have shined in spurts. The one that I think you can be most impressed with, though, I think is Tyler Johnson. He has had a very good week, not just with Tom Brady, but also with Blaine Gabbert, with Kyle Trask. Like, it seems like no matter who the quarterback is, Tyler Johnson has been playing extremely well. It needs to translate to games. Like, he's going to need to do that in the next few weeks, right? To prove that he has a spot on the roster. But it's certainly a positive sign. And you're right, with the opportunity given, especially with a guy like Perryman now. Evans and Jones, like they're not competition for that. But Perryman is direct competition there. So Perryman sitting out and Johnson being able to be productive would be massive for his chances of making the team. So I've been really impressed with Tyler Johnson. I know I'm probably a bit biased because everybody knows how I feel about Tyler Johnson. And it's not the first time that he's had a really good camp. Like, this isn't the first really good camp he's had. He needs to prove it during a game, which has been like a struggle for him. But so far, I've liked what I've seen from him.
Yeah, Tyler Johnson today, actually, we talk about his productivity. Had a nice toe tap touchdown in the corner of the end zone from Tom Brady. Jalen Darden had a couple of touchdowns today as well during goal line work. Scotty Miller, who you mentioned briefly, he spoke on his ability today to be more versatile than people think. He basically came out and said something along the lines of like, yeah, people only think I'm a deep threat, but I think I'm much more versatile than that. And the reps he's getting in camp and ultimately these preseason games coming up, joint practices too, also important to mention. All of this stuff is going to factor into whether these guys make the team or not. And like, this is just the most important stretch of camp, I think, for them right now to take advantage of the other top guys not being out there as much.
Yeah, especially for a guy like Scotty Miller, who is firmly on that roster bubble, I think. Tyler Johnson can block a little bit better than Miller, and I think that gives Johnson the edge there. We know Miller's role, though. Even though Miller thinks he's more versatile, he can do a bit more. The role that the Bucs have for him is that guy who can stretch the field and run the streaks and the goes. Like, that's the role that the Bucs have for him. They don't need him to do much else. So he's going to need to do that well, and he has shown that in spurts this camp. He has shown that. But he's going to need to do it again, just like Johnson. He's going to need to do it in an actual game. And these 3 preseason games are going to matter for a guy like Scotty Miller.
Another name that was garnering praise this week at training camp was rookie tight end Cade Otton. He's been pretty productive, had a pair of touchdowns today in practice as well, and got in the end zone during goal line work, a contact period. He's been looking pretty good. And I know that everybody says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We've talked about it plenty. It's hard to get that excited about guys who look good at camp, but I also think the weight of a guy like Cade Otton playing well bodes so much better, not only because of the guys he's matching up against every single day, but I mean, this is a rookie from this year. We talked about this draft class. You want to get as many productive guys as you can, and so far, Cade Otton looks like a guy who could potentially contribute down the stretch of the 22 season.
And I think the Bucs are hoping he can. Maybe not right away, but I think eventually. Obviously, they have Cameron Brate and Kyle Rudolph, 2 veterans. And if Rob Gronkowski doesn't return, then you're basically looking at Cade Otton being the 3rd guy. But I think in a perfect scenario for the Bucs, Cade Otton proves good enough to be able to overtake a Cameron Brate or Kyle Rudolph by midseason, because that means you've hit on the draft picks. So I don't know how much you'd see Cade Otton playing in like the first part of the regular season, but like that second half, I could see him getting more and more reps.
Before we move on here, shout out to everybody in the live chat. Our buddy Adam Davies from Bucs UK, Slim Stank, Willie Beeman. Shout out to the Cannon Fire Podcast, the Mod Squad, and all the fans in Bucs Nation. Glad to have you guys here. Chris Cole says, hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to be at the joint practice on Thursday, August 11th. I believe that is the joint practice with Miami. I'm going to be out there August 10th, and I should be there August 11th. So Cole or Chris, I will look for you, my friend. TB12 Goatman checking in as well. Pete Payne, the moderator, holding it down. Bucs UK in the house. All right, before we get into the questions in chat, we have a lot to cover today. I hate to, we were talking about guys who were playing well, and I kind of hate to do a quick 180 here, but I don't know if I should be concerned. I am concerned. Is Kyle Trask having the worst training camp of all time? I know we just talked about, not putting all of your eggs in one basket when guys do well. And it's also, I'm sure the same can be said about sucking in training camp, but to this degree, I don't know if people are overreacting, because I haven't personally been to a training camp session yet, but I have not heard one good thing about Kyle Trask since training camp started. And I know that this is the time that you want to iron out the kinks, right? You kind of want to hear about your guys throwing 3 or 4 picks a day during this training camp period, but these joint practices and these preseason games, I feel like are about to tell us everything we need to know about Kyle Trask. And up until this point, all we have heard is that he is just stinking the place up.
Yeah, so the first week without pads on, he looked decent. He looked fine. Once the pads came on, though, it seemed to just be getting worse and worse every day. As the week went on, it just got worse and worse and worse.
I mean, the Bucs are deleting videos of him off of their social media feed.
And to be fair, the Bucs should have never posted that in the first place. They should have known better. Notice how they never post any video. You hear things about Tom Brady being picked off, but they never post any video about that.
It's usually Blaine, Griffin, or Trask throwing that pick.
Yeah. So protect the player. Kyle Trask, that's an embarrassing throw. You should know better to not post that, even though it's a highlight for the defense and it was Jamel Dean who's a starter. You should know better than to post that, because that was ugly. It wasn't tipped. It was a duck.
$5 super chat from our boy Mikey. He says, Kyle Trash sucks. I've been to a couple of practices. The ball literally just floats out of his hand. He has no velocity at all, and he makes a ton of overthrows. That's the thing, is that camp interceptions are one thing when you've got defensive guys trying to step up and make plays, but I've heard he's overthrowing a lot of people out there as well. A lot of, I hate to say it like this, but a lot of the draft profile that you had put on him before he came into the league is really what we're seeing here. That velocity becoming a bit of an issue, his deep accuracy is definitely not that great, and that's something we saw an issue with in the preseason last year as well. So are people overreacting about Kyle Trask? Should they be this upset? Because, yeah, it's a second-round pick, and they could have obviously used that to get a playmaker somewhere else, because I'm sure maybe there's a few from that class that people can point out hindsight's always 2020? Or is it one of those things where, like, for Kyle Trask, it's, he's kind of SOL because it wasn't the best situation for him to be in to begin with, because Tom Brady ultimately came back to play a third year in Tampa, and that leaves Trask in purgatory, as we have also talked about before.
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground. I don't think you should just ignore it. Like, you can't just ignore it. However, I don't think like, oh, this is like, this is the worst thing ever, this and this and this. It's certainly concerning. I think you should be worried because I mean, the reports just aren't good at all. And like, there's just the same concerns that he had pre-draft, just like you mentioned, like, are the same concerns now. And it's going to be, these preseason games are going to be very important. And I mean, I was never a big Kyle Trask guy to begin with. People who listen to this show know that, but like, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think even like most of the fans like had like an open mind, especially a lot of Florida football fans, right? A lot of Gators fans, and now they're starting to turn, and it's starting to become like, well, rather than like a 50-50 split, it's starting to be like 80-20. Like,
one thing that we've learned about this fan base, I mean, not just the Bucs fan base, but really any fan base in the NFL, it is a "what have you done for me lately" league, and so people will turn pretty quick. I mean, there's also the minority of people who say that, oh, well, Kyle Trask hasn't gotten as many reps. I mean, he's only gotten a couple of preseason games under his belt. He's got one full training camp in the NFL. Here he is going through number 2. And I get that side of the argument. But again, it also all ties back into whether he's going to be able to produce for Tampa Bay in the long run. And as of right now, it's a big old question mark. But we've got plenty of more time to talk about that. Like I said, the preseason game and the rest of training camp is going to tell us everything we need to know.
And just like Pete Payne put in the chat, there's a possibility that Trask is a guy that plays better in a game than practices. There's a lot of guys like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that play better than they actually practice. It's weird, but it happens. There's guys that practice better than they play, You would rather it be you practice, you suck at practice, but you're good during a game, So yeah, it's not time yet. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. After the preseason, if we look at it and Kyle Trask, everyone sees it's the same thing, like he looks like the same exact guy as last preseason, then I think you have to, I think you kind of have to cut your losses, not cut him, but say like, I don't think Trask, I don't think he's going to be the guy. And like the thing about like, oh, he does not getting that many reps. Tom Brady had a personal day and then he had his birthday off. So he had 2 personal days there. So you got more reps then. Trask has gotten a lot of reps with the 2s. Like, hasn't been like the Bucs have given him an opportunity. Todd Bowles said Tom Brady will not play versus Miami. And so Trask or Gabbert will be the starter. Trask is going to get at least a quarter, maybe 2. As we get the $2 super chat from Mr. Bucs Nation. Not sure.
We had to mention him some point in the episode.
I don't know who
every single week he kind of just slithers his way into the conversation, and there he is. $2 super chat going to the Wendy's Fund. Thank you, James.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks, James. So I mean, it's like I said, right now it's concerning, but you can't hit the panic button just yet. The preseason games are going to matter, though. I don't know if there's a player that needs a better preseason more than Kyle Trask.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. When you look at the rest of the quarterback room, you know exactly what you're getting. With Tom Brady, you know what you're getting. With Blaine Gabbert and Ryan Griffin, who has somehow managed to stay on this roster for, I think, 8 years now.
Longer than that.
You know what you're getting with those guys. So with Kyle Trask, I can understand the reason people put so much stock into how they feel about it, right? People get caught up not only because they're Florida football fans and they're biased, because that's just how it is. That's how it was with Jameis and Florida State fans. He had people who said he could do no wrong, and they had on those red, the garnet and gold colored glasses. But
the thing is, though, Jameis was actually good in spurts. That's
of course.
I mean,
it's a hell of a lot different too when it's a second round pick compared to a number one overall pick who has handed the keys to your franchise and said, let's go turn this thing around.
Second round pick in year 2, you should look better than you did in year 1.
No, you're 100% right. And I think that's what gives people the right to get as upset about it as they do. I don't like to be the guy who spends time crying about could have done this with our picks, but
if only somebody could have predicted this. If only somebody would have warned people about this.
Really quick, before we go into our next segment, I was going to do this at the top of the show, and I kind of forgot, and I'm glad I just remembered. You know what time it is, Evan? It's our first show of August.
Yeah, I figured you were waiting to the end. I was going to bring it up at the beginning.
Let's do a little halfway break, huh? A little refresher.
Let's do a little intermission. Right before that, though, we got another 5-hour super chat by Mikey.
Let's go.
What's your prediction for Rachaad White playing time in the preseason? Also, same for Zion McCollum and Logan Hall. I think all 3 of them are going to get a good bit of playing time, especially a guy like Rachaad White, because I don't know if the Bucs are going to play Leonard Fournette, Giovanni Bernard a ton. They're 2 veterans. I think you're going to see a lot of Keyshawn Vaughn and a lot of Rachaad White out of the backfield in the preseason. Logan Hall, I think they're going to try to mix him in with the ones a little bit. I think you'll see McCollum too, but I think you're going to see the most out of Rachaad White.
Yeah, no, I was going to agree. There's been a lot of positive hype about him coming out of camp.
Check out the video of him dusting Keanu Neal by Jurgen Shirley on Twitter.
I mean, second or third day at camp, I don't remember who it was, but somebody tweeted out that this kid is literally going to be a problem on the offense this season. And one thing that you don't have to question with Rachaad White is his motivation, his dedication to the game. I mean, he came in saying 2-3 months ago after he got drafted that he wants to take the starting running back position. I don't know if he's going to be able to do just that, but the more he can get involved in this offense and the more passes he can catch out of the backfield, the more excited people are going to be to go see him play. But time to flip the calendar page. It's our first show of August, and our first show of the month, we usually flip the page on the old calendar here. We have been rocking cornerback Jamel Dean, and actually, since we are talking about Jamel Dean, we'll talk about the secondary here in a second, but for the month of July, Jamel Dean, we'll have to say goodbye. Evan, keep the people entertained.
Here we go.
This is obviously an incentive for you to go check out the show on YouTube if you haven't already.
Yeah, the audio listeners are very confused right now. But we flip it, and it looks like it is right tackle Tristan Wirfs.
Yes, sir. Big number 78. Rocking the pewter.
Nice. Looks nice.
Yeah. How
Looks
about
very
that,
nice.
man?
Very nice. So for the month of August, the last one before the regular season, it's Tristan Wirfs.
Hey, I got protection. All right? Just in case anybody ever asks.
Protection.
Right there. Big 78. How we doing? How you feeling?
Yeah, we're doing good. Just a brief, like intermission, little check in.
Well, yeah, we'll check in.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
All right, so
good.
Let's talk about the secondary. Talked about Jamel Dean briefly, but he's not really who I want to talk about. One of the interesting things coming into camp was that safety room, how guys are going to get moved around, because you've got versatile safeties all over the place and everybody can be used. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. As far as the safety room goes, though, I would say the biggest change so far has been Antoine Winfield Jr. He's been playing a hell of a lot of nickel since camp started, and he's been making some plays this week in particular, too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons the Bucs drafted him, was because of how versatile he was. And we saw it a little bit, I think, in years 1 and 2, but I think as he progresses as a player, you can do more with him. And I feel like he's kind of their Swiss Army knife. Now, I don't want him to be moving around constantly, because I think he has the potential to be one of the better safeties in the NFL. But so I don't want him moving around and having to deal with, this and this and this, like 3 different positions. But it's a bonus to have that type of versatility in your secondary. And they don't just have Winfield. It's multiple guys that have that versatility. And that's clearly something that they look for. Their cornerbacks, not so much, but in their safeties, they want their safeties to do more than just one thing. And Winfield can do that, and then some.
Yeah, Keanu Neal, another guy, I believe, laid a huge hit on somebody today. I don't know who it was, but he's been laying the boom, patrolling the middle of the field. Of course, other playmakers back there. Logan Ryan secured a pick this week. Looking at the corner room, though, we talk about some changes for guys in there. Sean Murphy-Bunting. as far as I know, maybe it's changed. Maybe he's gotten a few reps at nickel, but he has been pretty much playing outside corner this entire camp, which is a little bit of a change for him as well. And for a lot of Bucs fans, I think was with his size, his ability, it could be a welcome change because he was struggling last year. I know he was battling injury, but he certainly struggled last year. Hopefully you guys are still here with me. Evan is not. What happened? He completely froze on me. If you guys are in the live chat and you can still hear me, let me know. Buddy Pete Payne says Nacho sounds to be having a killer camp, waiting to take Sue's place. Yes, sir. Yeah, Evan frozen with fear. He didn't even want to talk about SMB playing outside. The thought just rattled him. Man, that really sucks. I guess we're going to figure this thing out live. Had Evan drop out of here. See if we can get him back. Appreciate your patience, folks. This is the beauty of doing stuff like this live. Man, we were rolling too. That bums me out. Oh, he's got to do a little reset. All right, let's check in with the live chat really quick while we sit here and wait. Adam Davies says Evan frozen with fear. Danny checking in. Will Brady have less than 10 picks? I don't know. If he's on pace to throw 5,000 something yards again, I don't know. It'll be tough, but if anybody can do it, it's TB12. Yeah, Pete, I don't know what happened. The Zoom call, the video just kind of gave up, so we're chilling for right now. Trying to handle it the best we can. See if I can get Evan back in here, potentially. I saw someone say they think SMB should be cut. He struggled at the tail end of last year, but there were like a lot of people who said that. And I got to tell you, I did not agree. I really didn't. The fact that this guy's still on his rookie contract, I think this is his contract year, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or he's headed into year 3. Somebody in the chat's got to know. Yeah, no way they cut SMB. That guy's talented as hell. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Sorry you got to be patient. Thoughts on Joe Tryon this year? I am personally excited. We'll probably touch on it again before the end of the pod, but I'm really excited to see what he can do. They're saying out of camp he has looked really good. He would have got 2 sacks the other day if they were allowed to hit the quarterback. It'd be pretty dope to see JTS sneak around double-digit sacks. I don't know, man. I still think about Shaq Barrett and his productivity. You know, I'd like to see him really get double digits this year. I can't remember what he finished with last year, but he was playing pretty well for the most part. Yeah, I don't see SMB getting cut either, Chris. I think it's just too soon for something like that. This is a money year, but he will be a good backup corner, and he's been playing some special teams, so that makes him better. Yes, sir, TB12 GOAT, man. Being an option on special teams obviously always makes you that much more valuable to your team. All right, it says we've got Evan here. The other cool thing about you guys watching this live is anyone who listens to the audio podcast is not going to hear this. So thanks for being patient with us while I try to get Evan back in here. Hello, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me, sir?
Can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. We are back and rocking. Thank you to everybody for being patient with us. That's the beauty of live programming.
Here's the story. So, about 2 minutes before that happened, my computer kind of got slow, and then it hit a black screen. It came back, and everything was fine, but on my view, my camera was a little, like, pixelated. It was a little, yours was a little blurry, but I could still make everything out. Everything was running smoothly. It was fine. And then 2 minutes later, it did it again, and I was expecting to just go back. And when it went back, you were frozen. There was like little black spots all around the screen. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, this isn't good.
Our buddy Pete Payne said you returned it better than Jalen Darden would have.
Wow.
Honestly, I thought it was an issue on my end first because it is raining cats and dogs outside. So I heard a little bit of thunder. I assumed like, oh, my Wi-Fi just went out. I'm going to keep talking until the live stream ultimately cuts out. And then I'm looking down at my phone and then the live stream doesn't cut out and everyone reacts to you freezing. So I'm glad we were able to save this one. And the show goes on, folks. Thank you for being patient with us. So, all right, let's get back into what we were talking about. I wanted to get your opinion on Sean Murphy-Bunting playing a lot more outside corner throughout the start of this training camp.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise. He's been playing a lot of nickel in his career, and really that's where he's been better, I think. Especially since like the Bucs have Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, two bigger guys as their outside corner. Sean Murphy-Bunting's decent size. I wouldn't say he's not tiny, but like those two guys are bigger. I think they're trying to do something different with SMB, and I haven't heard great things about his camp. From what I saw on Monday and Tuesday, he wasn't great. He's been just really inconsistent. I don't know where that player from 2019 and 2020 is. I don't know if that injury in week 1 of last year really hurt him, but like he's not the same guy. Like he's not the same guy. So I don't know where, like I said, I don't know where that player is, but he better come back soon. I don't think I saw somebody talking in the in the chat that they saw that someone said he could be cut. That would be a shocker. I would be very surprised if that happens. I don't think he's going to be that bad.
Contract year for him this year, right?
Yeah, it is a contract year. This is a contract year for both him and Jamel Dean. So these are big years for these guys, and not the best start for Sean Murphy-Bunting, honestly, because I think the Bucs envisioned him as their nickel corner, and if they're going away from that, that means that they've determined he can't do that. So it's not a great thing. Hopefully he can shine a little bit better in these actual preseason games, and we'll see how many reps, is he with the first team defense? Is he with the second team defense? There's an opportunity that we'll get to see.
Yeah, we talked about the versatility of the guys in the safety room. Antoine Winfield Jr. in particular filling in that nickel role when needed. So maybe that gives the Bucs a little less pressure at that position, knowing that you've got a guy like 31 who can kind of fill in when needed. Is it worth it for them to do it with SMB at this point in his career, though? Like we mentioned, it is a contract year, incredibly important year. And as far as the NFL goes, especially in this Bucs secondary, it's kind of one of those things where like they have been so bad in the past that I want to look at this with a mentality of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mm-hmm. And I know I mentioned that SMB struggled in the tail end of last year. I think not having all of your starters on defense until the playoffs will probably do that to you. They had a rotating corner and safety room every single game, like 11 different starting lineups for 11 weeks in a row last year. It cannot be understated just how much they had to maneuver those guys around, and all of this learning on the move BS. I'm sure it was a lot to deal with on top of the injury, but like, is it going to be worth it in the long run? Do you think the Bucs have that much faith for him to add a little bit of depth to an outside corner room this year that, like you had mentioned, already features Carlton Davis, who just got paid, and Jamel Dean, who's also going to be playing for a contract?
I just think the Bucs are trying to figure out something to do with him. Like, I honestly do. It's unfortunate to say, but like, I just think I don't know, because I just don't think he's very good on the outside. I think his spot is better on the inside, but the Bucs have probably, if they're having him on the outside, they've likely determined that like the inside is not going to work. And if that's the case, then what value does he actually bring? It's not like he's a guy that can also play a little bit of safety. He's never done it before. So like, I'm just not sure what value he brings to a team. And, we'll see how they treat it. I mean, he's probably going to be one of their top 3 corners. I don't think he'd fall from, that far. But it's certainly not a positive sign. But again, he could go out in the preseason games and have 2 picks and forget it all. So at times during his 2020 season, he was very inconsistent. But then during the playoffs, what happened? He had a pick versus Washington, had a pick versus New Orleans, and had a pick versus Green Bay. Really changed people's opinions. So people's opinions can change pretty quick based on results. So I think that's where in these preseason games is going to be. I think Sean Murphy-Bunting's another guy, not so much the preseason games like a Kyle Trask situation, but I think that this regular season, he could be one of those guys where that needs to have a productive regular season or else he won't be here next year.
Another question people may have about rookie Zion McCollum. How does he fit into all this? I mean, if you look at the Bucs secondary from 2021, if you had to take like one of those players in the secondary and essentially swap it out with where Zion McCollum fits in for 2022, who would you compare that to? Like a Ross Cockrell or somebody else?
Well, the interesting thing is I've been pretty impressed with Ross Cockrell. He's impressed me so far this camp. 2020 was a good year for him. 2021 was not. He's had one good year, one bad one. And I think that Zion McCollum and him right now are in a battle for that fourth corner spot. And if I had to guess, I would say Ross Cockrell leads that fourth corner spot. That doesn't mean Zion McCollum's going to get cut. Like, he's not. I think he'll be the fifth corner to start the year, but I think the team really likes Cockrell. And he's made plays in the past. He's a veteran. And like I said, he has had a good camp. So it's not really necessarily a knock on McCollum. It's just Cockrell has done his job pretty well. And I think that they could trust the veteran over a rookie like McCollum, who has all the tools, but may, right after the draft, you looked at the guy who had the tools, but was a little bit raw. And I just don't know a team that wants to win now. I don't know if they want to be relying Jamel Dean or Sean Murphy-Bunting go down. Zion McCollum would be the next guy in. Like, I just don't know if they want to be relying on that type of player to be the next guy up.
Right. Let's take a look at the offensive line here as we start to wrap things up from week 2 of camp. This left guard spot in particular, we talked about it a week ago, and two of the main guys that we had talked about fighting for this spot were going to be Luke Gedeke and Aaron Stinney. And I still kind of feel that way, but we have seen a little bit more variety as far as working with the ones and the twos than I thought we were going to see. Not only is it all the guys that we had mentioned, Aaron Stinney, Luke Gedeke, but also Nick Leverett getting some reps, not only at left guard, but center as well, as he is kind of slated to be the backup for Robert Hainsey at the center position anyways. And then I think even like John Mulliken has been getting some reps as well with the twos and threes. So what do you make of this competition so far? And is it, at this point, do we still kind of feel like, it's going to come down to one guy or the other over these next couple of days? Actually, before I toss it to you, Harold Goodwin, the offensive line coach, said, at some point I have to put my foot down and go ahead and pick a guy so we can build that communication with Donovan Smith and Robert Hainsey at the center spot. So we know the Bucs are high on Hainsey at center, but that left guard spot, we still don't have a definite answer on.
Yeah, and I think right now you could say Aaron Stinney has the lead. If the Bucs needed to name a guy right this second, I think it would be Aaron Stinney. Luke Gedeke has looked inconsistent at times in training camp. That's to be expected with a guy from a smaller school. I said, I think a few weeks ago that not everybody's an Ali Marpet, right? Just because you get drafted from a small school, you're this, kind of nastier guy. You don't have to, you don't have to be that guy who starts right away and makes an immediate impact. Luke Gedeke may be a late bloomer, and I think having Aaron Stinney there helps, right? That you don't need to rush him in there. And also helps Donovan Smith right next to him. That's important. Donovan Smith has been vulnerable at times, right? He has been vulnerable, but he's been much better. But he's been vulnerable. Do you really want to have a rookie next to him with not much experience there? That would be tricky. And I think Aaron Stinney right now has NFL experience. They really like him. And I think he's in the lead right now. And if I had to guess, I would say he holds on to that job. I think going into it, I think he was the favorite. It wasn't a lock, but I think it would be barring any injury or anything like that. I think Stinney's probably going to hold on to that job.
I want to agree. I mean, he was one of the first free agent signings the Buccaneers made in the offseason. They brought him back for a reason. You pay a guy like that. Now, while they aren't paying him starting left guard money, he's still getting paid, and the Bucs chose to bring him back for another season. I think it was just a one-year deal, right? For now?
Yeah, I think so, yep.
Yeah, but this is a guy who's obviously proven that he can plug and play at that left guard spot before. That right guard spot with the 2020 playoff run. Alex Kappa going down. He filled in. Bucs win a Super Bowl. The whole shebang. But I think it's going to be Stinney at that left guard spot come week 1. But again, these preseason games, especially joint practices, are going to tell you a lot. And while we speak to joint practices really quick, I do think it's funny to mention, I don't think those joint practices can get here soon enough. These guys are tired of facing each other, especially the linemen, day in and day out at practice. I mean, we're wrapping up the second week of training camp, so this is probably like day 10 or 11 of camp. And ever since they put the pads on, things have gotten a little bit dicey down there at times.
You get irritated. It's like
Nick Leverett and Nacho going at it today, and a couple of other people throwing hands as well.
It's like, whenever you go on like a family vacation, like at first it may be fine, but after like 4 or 5 days, you're like, all right, I'm sick of these people.
Is that how you felt staying with James for training camp last week?
Oh, that was after a few hours, but it's Joshua,
by the time day 2 rolls around, he's like, God, man, just get me out of here.
So woke up in bed. I said, oh God, who's that knocking at the door? But Joshua said he heard that Hainsey was chippy at practice today, speaking to the overall competitiveness, I think. And he also said, holy crap, finally getting a good podcast to watch. We appreciate the support, Joshua.
Thanks for being here, Josh. I'll tell you what, I feel for Josh in particular. He's been commenting on our stuff all week. And he's like, when are you guys doing the podcast? And to be honest, we wanted to get this podcast out a little bit earlier, but obviously life happens. You push it back a little bit. We're glad to be doing it now. But like, I've been feeling, man, I'm like, listen, we're going to be back. I promise you guys, we're going to be back in a more regular capacity. And like, we're going to be back in a more regular capacity than we already are. I mean, we're doing 1 a week show right now. That's going to pick up here soon as well. But for everybody who has been craving the podcast content, I promise you it is on the way.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate you guys' patience. We appreciate you guys' support for sure. And then he also said Hill talking crap, saying he's ready to play against Tampa so he can show what he has with Tuna. Okay, or I think you meant to say Tua, or maybe he didn't. No, he didn't. Throwing a shot, But I mean, okay, like I haven't personally seen that quote. But like, I mean, it's preseason, like whatever. Yeah, whatever. The Bucs' first team defense might not even play. So congratulations on like toasting, whoever the 5th string corner. Congrats.
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, it's camp. Like I said, that analogy I made, I think was perfect. And as camp goes on, they're your teammates, but you start to get. You want to hit somebody else. You get sick of the same old. And I think that's what's happening right now. So,
and I don't, to be honest, I don't think, well, I know for a fact that like, this isn't anything to be concerned with. This isn't anything that's going to bleed over into the regular season. Like Nick Leverett and Nacho are not going to have heat during the regular season. It's just getting back to football. It is what it is. The Bucs are not the only team fighting each other right now. They're certainly not.
Did you see? What Trevor Penning from the Saints got in a fight 3 days
out of
in
practice,
a row.
dude.
Yeah, he got in a fight 3 days in a row. The same dude. Anyways, Dark Angel said, and I only want to bring this up as a one thing. He said, if we can beat Hill on the Chiefs, we could beat Hill on the Dolphins. Really quick, that I think we have to remind everybody. People remember it, and then they forget.
That one that
wins or losses in the preseason doesn't matter.
Well, wins or losses in the preseason doesn't matter, but I think another thing people also forget is that I don't think Tyreek Hill's going to play in that preseason game. Tua might.
Sounds like he might. I don't know.
But I mean, if he is, I don't know, dude. I mean, Tyreek Hill playing in Miami with Tua is different than him playing in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, because Tua has been proven to be a guy who really isn't going to get the ball to him 65 yards down the field.
More accuracy. Apparently.
Okay.
According to him.
All right. More accuracy.
But I mean, like
your boy Tua.
The results don't matter. Like the results don't matter. So wins, they could lose 50-0. Like it doesn't matter. Like the results do not matter. Important to remember, because every year they lose a preseason game. And you always get people in the comments, oh, this team sucks, this and that. Like, okay, like let's not judge people based on the preseason. Okay. The 2008
These guys
Lions
are cooked. We're barely winning 5 games this year.
They are done. Brady will retire by week 4. He's done. But look at him. He's not even playing.
He's not even playing against Miami because he's going to be up in the owner's booth signing his contract.
Oh, that was a good one. I gotta give you that one. That was a good one. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter. The 2008 Lions, who went 0-16, went 4-0 in the preseason. So that's the only thing you have to remember. Real quick before we head out, though,
I think the Cleveland Browns, who also went 0-16, went 4-0 that preseason.
Yeah. So if you go now it's 3-0. If you go 3-0, that's actually the kiss of death. So you don't want that. So now we have to talk about I think one of the best battles going on right now.
The most important battle on the team.
The kickers.
I mean, we close the show every week with the guys who are stealing practice, and that is the kicking battle. Jose Borregales and Ryan Succop. I mean, Ryan Succop, he was pretty much perfect up until 2 days ago. He has literally not missed a kicking period up until 2 days ago. He missed one from about, I think, like 38. They said it was wide left, so it was like an ugly miss. But, I mean, for the perfect streak that he has been on, Jose Borregales has been right there with him. And there's a couple of things that come into, I don't know if you can hear that thunder. Did you hear that?
That sounded good.
It's a good thing we're wrapping up before my power drops out here.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
But this kicking battle is obviously exciting. Both guys have been so close to perfect. I would say Ryan Succop still kind of has the edge, but
the veteran's edge, I think.
It truthfully could go either way. And it's hard to say, it's hard to judge these kicks, especially without the preseason games. These are going to be so much more important to see not only how these guys are used, when they're trotted out there, and if they're effective. But, I mean, Succop is more proven. He's got the veteran's edge. But Jose Borregales, the two things that factor into this are longevity and cost, because he can play a little bit longer than Ryan Succop at this point, and he's going to cost the Bucs probably way less in the long run as of right now until he's due for another contract. So, like, those are two big things that Tampa Bay is going to be taking into consideration. But as far as performance on the field, these guys are dead even.
Yeah, it's as I've said, the entire time, it's gonna come down to the preseason games. Like it's gonna come down to that. There's pros and cons to each one. The safer option would be Succop. Like the safer option would probably be Succop. You know what he is. He's the veteran. But I think the one with more potential is probably Borregales. He has the bigger leg. He's, like you said, he's younger. He'd be cheaper. The way that both of them have been kicking, if the Bucs want to keep Succop for one more year and have Borregales there next year, I don't know if they're going to be able to get away with that again. Like I don't know. There's going to be a team's kicker out there that struggles this preseason and gets cut, and I think they could come looking for Jose Borregales because I don't know if they're going to be able to stash him again.
I think they need to do Jose Borregales a huge favor, and they need to get that kid out of 19 because holy shit, I don't think I can watch another Bucs kicker, a young Bucs kicker,
who also
with a cannon of a leg.
Kicked in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Played college football in the state of Florida.
A lot of hype. A lot of hype about this kid. I mean, everybody has a right to be excited. The Buccaneers protected him every week last year, and they were grateful that nobody took him. But man, oh man, if he makes the team, please, for the love of God, get him out of 19.
The good news, though, is that you can only get a little bit of PTSD because it's not the same uniform.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
If it was the alarm clock ones, you'd be like, oh, when I see this 19, I think of like Mike Williams. Like that's what I think of.
Oh, Mike Williams, by the way, who has
he has been in the news recently.
Yeah, he's been in the news for some not great things. I think he's got a court hearing coming up against the state of Florida, so hopefully that goes well for him.
Yeah, good luck to you, my friend. I think that's a good place to wrap up the show.
Yeah, just a bitter end.
Yeah, I guess. Well, football's coming back soon.
Yeah, so football's back.
We'll have a preview show. It's not going to be in-depth analysis on the game, really, just like what to look for. It's not going to be the actual game plan. It's going to be like matchups and stuff. We'll probably know more this week about who's all going to be playing. We know Tom Brady's not, but Todd Bowles wasn't really clear on, if any starters will be playing, how long they'd be playing. So we'll probably, by the time we talk to you next, we'll know some of that. And then the season prediction show will probably be maybe like next week. So
I was actually going to ask you, do you want to do it next week before like because if we're tossing out days here, let's just say Friday, we'll do a live stream. Game is on Saturday against Miami.
Yeah.
In Tampa.
Yeah, in Tampa. They have the one home game, one home preseason, 2 away preseason this year.
Pete said he thought you were just going to end it Soprano style, go black screen. That's it. I need to rewatch that show so bad, man. I've been seeing a bunch of.
You know what? I've never watched it. I want to. I'm gonna start.
I am appalled.
For sure, gonna start. I like for HBO. I like Entourage. I'm a big
Woke up
Entourage
this morning, got some gabagool. Yeah, man, that's the show. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, but
okay.
we
The
can
season
do it
predictions next week for sure. We'll talk to you guys Friday for sure.
Friday the preview, Sunday probably the review, and then the season prediction show, and then we got a whole nother review for a whole nother game. I think it's versus Tennessee. I think.
Yeah. No kidding.
I think they might be traveling to Tennessee the week after to joint practice with the Titans too. So
that'll be a lot of fun. Of course, Mike Vrabel and Tom Brady get another chance to go back at it. Remember last year watching In the Current, the end of the season recap. That was always a lot of fun. So we'll get a lot of great sound bites from training camp during the Buccaneers' time in Tennessee, and obviously joint practices starting with Miami next week. We will keep you posted between now and then with any big updates on the Red and Pewter and season prediction show. We're gonna squeeze that in there somewhere. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. We greatly appreciate your support, hanging out with us live over here on YouTube. Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for Bucs news. Yeah.
As it happens. Speaking of Bucs news, as it happens.
Words are hard. I said it at the beginning of the podcast.
I know.
Speaking of Bucs news, as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back.
Check out my written work on BucsNation.com.
Yes, check out his written work on BucsNation.com. You got anything in the oven for this week?
No, probably going to be covering the game, so I'm not sure what I'm going to be covering with the game, but probably something that revolves around that.
All right, well, stay tuned, folks. Plenty of more great content coming your way, and with the preseason game in less than a week, we are just getting started. It's going to be a fun 2022 season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we are here to keep you updated every single step of the way. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you guys next week. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.